Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone. So today we have beautiful Soraya Saraswati. She is a singer, a writer, a yoga teacher, yoga therapist, also a naturopath. Soraya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shira. It's lovely to be here. Coming to you from Australia, and you're in Holland. Whereabouts are you in Holland now?
Den Haag, The Hague.
The Hague. Okay, yes, I have been there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I hope to see you here one day after COVID soon. So I would like to start the questions with, when did your yoga journey start?
Yeah, I guess everyone has a story around that. Mm-hmm. And for myself, I was first trained actually as a dental therapist. And in Australia, a dental therapist works on children's teeth and educating children in schools around dental hygiene, but also doing fillings and giving injections and all the care that a child needs. And I was working in the Northern Territory in Arnhem Land with Indigenous communities. And I had attended a couple of yoga classes in the Northern Territory. Mm-hmm. The first class changed me forever. My poor boyfriend. I left my boyfriend. I became a vegetarian overnight, and my whole life sort of completely changed. And that was interesting because the woman who was teaching knew nothing much about yoga. She was simply reading it off a sheet of paper and never mentioned vegetarianism or anything else, but just simply doing the practices. I had been sort of experimenting with smoking pot and drinking and doing all those things that you do when you're in your late teens. And I instantly at 19 stopped all of that and became completely, on a healthy trajectory.
Yeah. So it affected you very deeply, very quickly.
It was amazing when I look back. It was quite profound, really. And then I was out in Arnhem Land working in the Indigenous communities, and I had been dedicating morning practice ever since my first class. I just was so disciplined. I did some practice every day. And then I had an experience where I vanished.
Wow.
The sense of separate self vanished. And it was in a beautiful part of Arnhem Land. And the sunsets, if anyone's been to the Northern Territory in Australia, are just stunning. They're glorious, bright red and deep oranges. And the whole sky was alight. And I was in this amazing area of great big boulders. And I discovered it was actually an ancient Aboriginal burial ground later. Wow. And all of a sudden, any sense of the separate me vanished and all was one. And it affected me quite profoundly. It didn't last, of course, it was momentary, but enough that I never forgot it. And when I went back to town, I was living in Catherine at the time. I had a little postage letter, because it wasn't an email in those days. I didn't have a computer in those days. We're going back now
40 years.
Yeah, 40, yeah, over 40 years, my goodness. And there was a course to learn about yoga, a teacher training in an ashram in New South Wales. And I quit my job and paid for the course, and off I went.
Wow. That's radical. That's amazing. But yeah, I can imagine. I started yoga very young too, and it was definitely straight away like, this is home. I feel so good. I need to just keep doing this. Wonderful. Yeah. And after this yoga training, and how long did you practice before you started realizing that just yoga by itself wasn't enough? Was that a realization, or did yoga therapy, was it always a kind of therapy for you, the yoga practice?
Well, the initial training I did was 1 month living in what was called a yoga ashram in those days. And it was run very much along Indian lines by swamis. And the training was quite deep. It was 8 hours a day. And that was a month, a full month. But at the end of the month, I felt as if I'd sort of just touched the surface, really, and I wanted to go deeper. So I didn't leave. I decided to stay for another month, and that sort of turned into 8 years.
Of course, if you can stay, why not?
And of course, during that time, I began teaching in the organization as well, and I actually donned orange robes and shaved my head and became a swami myself, dedicating my life to a yogic lifestyle and to attaining, I suppose, a state of consciousness myself, and supporting other people to attain that liberated state of consciousness. You know, of course, 40 years on now, I have, I'm not part of an organization now. I don't wear my orange robes anymore, but the dedication to living awake with moment by moment, because of course we can only be awake and conscious in the moment, not something we can do in the future or in the past. So nowadays I'm more dedicated to the direct path, or Advaita Vedanta, or some people may know it as the non-dual path, where we are not so focused on the teacher or the finger pointing, but we're focused on each moment and the experience of presence and awakeness in each moment.
So when you work with people in yoga therapy, that is also actually what you're trying to bring about, that they become more present in each moment.
Very much so. However, as you know, Shira, because you're a yoga therapist too, what we offer in yoga therapy is very much guided by our clients. And, you know, clients come for many, many different reasons to yoga. Some come for physical healing. And actually, I've just been through that myself. I broke my ankle quite severely last year, and used my yoga therapy training to overcome that incredibly well, and in record time, really. Others may come because they're burnt out, or they're stressed, or they're not coping with their day-to-day life. So then sharing the deeper understanding of who we truly are can help very much people to get in touch with themselves as awareness rather than feeling separate from. Because when we experience ourselves as separation, as separate from other people, as separate from other
the situation,
situations, it can bring about a deep feeling of isolation and loneliness.
Would you also say maybe powerlessness? Because then
yes, it can bring about many isolating feelings, and one of those can definitely be a sense of powerlessness. And what I'm focusing on here is, though, that, you know, in that deeper understanding of the roots of yoga, there is one consciousness. We are not all walking around as separate little consciousnesses. There is one consciousness, and it's expressing as multiplicity and diversity as all the separate, seemingly separate beings, expressions. However, because we in this human form need to experience life, we do so through the mind and the senses. However, mistakenly, we then often identify ourselves as thought, as mind, as the experience we're having through the senses, rather than awareness itself experiencing through mind on this plane.
Yeah.
If we identify with ourselves as awareness and the experience of awareness, then we begin to get a sense of this beautiful underlying one consciousness where we all melt and meet. And then the sense of judgment tends to fall away. The need to project an image of ourselves, the need to conform to someone else's idea, all of that falls away because we are none of that. We are not the mask we wear. We are the awareness of the whole.
I mean, I totally agree, but I'm just looking at this from our listeners. For some people, this might be really far away. How would you bring someone to that state of mind? Can you do it within a session, or do you do it over months, or is that something you actually mention to people directly?
It depends on what someone's coming for. As I said before, if they're coming for the healing of the body, then that's what they will receive, the healing of the body. And, you know, our bodies are precious. They're magnificent. They want to heal. They're programmed to heal.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we give them these nourishing practices, and part of that, of course, is breath. And breath is the more subtle form, which can then connect us in very beautifully with a more subtle experience of awareness itself. So I find that doing the practices, whatever those practices are, and developing deeper conscious awareness and bringing our attention into the present moment, often this experience can arise quite spontaneously. And most of us have had this experience once or twice in our life. Often it can happen, as it did for me, watching that beautiful sunset, melting in with the beauty. And all of a sudden, any sense of separation disappeared and everything felt as if it was just one loving, aware experience. Sometimes we can have this as a woman birthing a child or breastfeeding a child. You know, a mother can melt away that sense of separation. it can happen at beautiful and pivotal moments in our lives anyway. And I speak to many people who have had glimpses and moments of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we can fall back in, we can fall back into our story. So I tend to talk about our attachment to the story of me. And can I let go of the story and simply be here now in aware presence?
And how important do you think the body and the senses are to get people to be in the present?
We can, of course, use many, many different ways of stepping into this very moment. And the senses are used, as you know, a lot in mindfulness meditation techniques. And mindfulness and the wave of mindfulness that is occurring globally at the moment and over the last 10 years is wonderful. And it has its roots, of course, in yoga. And of course, they usually refer to Buddhism as well. But Buddhism also has its roots in yoga.
Yeah. Yeah. But the roots
So
are
yoga,
important. It's just where are we traveling? Yeah.
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 So, there's beautiful crossovers here. And of course, in most Indigenous communities as well, they have a deep reverence for presence in nature, which of course is more mindful living again, and experiencing through the senses to bring themselves into greater and deeper presence.
Yeah,
so
that's just one thing that I've discovered. Like for me, a long time yoga was just about transcendence, this self-awareness. And it's only the last 10 years since I have a child that I'm actually appreciating, loving, honoring, and nourishing my body and seeing it as a spiritual vessel as well. Because it was something I was always trying to overcome, to master. I used to be anorexic and I did lots of exercise and meditation and swimming and running. So I was always trying to control my body. So I was using yoga in that way as well at one point. And later, after becoming a mother, I realized we have to honor this body. Do we want to sustain it and our child and everything that is life? So life is a very spiritual experience as well. Yeah.
There is nothing that is not spiritual opportunity and a spiritual experience. We would not be experiencing this magnificent world if consciousness hadn't created these amazing bodies for us. These are our portholes into experience. Consciousness itself simply is isness. And in that, melting into that, although that's beautiful and wonderful, that we are only able to be self-aware and conscious of the unfolding universe through a body. So this body is the temple. It really is the temple. And to enjoy the life more, then it's so much better to have a healthy body. And we honor in a temple. So I am all for honoring the body. I understand I was a single parent. My first husband died and I raised 4 sons, mostly on my own. Wow. There was no family help. Later, I married again a wonderful man, but my children were teenagers and some almost ready to leave home by that time. So during that time, I continued with honoring yoga practice, never forcing. I was not into strong and strenuous yoga, but more into harmonizing yoga that brought about balance between body, mind, and spirit. And yoga nidra is something that I specialized in, and I have put out quite a few recordings that are available on Spotify and Bandcamp.
I'll put the link in the show notes after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those yoga nidras have gone all over the world. And my husband now is a wonderful musician, and he played beautiful flute on those recordings.
Oh,
But
wow.
yoga nidra was an absolute lifesaver for me during my period as a single parent. Every day I would practice yoga nidra. And yoga nidra is an amazing practice. It's a spiritual practice, but it's also so rejuvenating for the body.
Could you just tell our listeners what yoga nidra is, what it means?
Okay, well, nidra means sleep, really. So it's yogic sleep. Isn't that wonderful?
It is. I did it for my students last night, and they all either fell asleep or they were really far away. People travel when they go into the yoga nidras.
It's a beautiful state of deep and profound physical relaxation, mental relaxation, but there is that link of conscious awareness that links to the breath, to the voice of the person that's offering the practice. So again, yoga nidra, the way I learned it, my original master brought it back from very ancient practices and formed the Satyananda style of yoga nidra, which is the original. And it's very, very systematic. It works through, first of all, being aware of the senses, and so listening to sounds, and then sensations in the body, and slowly taking the awareness deeper and deeper, doing a full body rotation. And that's done in a very rhythmic way. So with that beautiful rhythm, we go deeper and deeper until we come to the breath, which of course is so much finer. And we work with breath. We can go deeper into mantra. We can go deeper again into symbols and visualizations. There can also be another important aspect of yoga nidra, which is sankalpa. And sankalpa is where we can plant a seed in the deep, relaxed, subconscious mind. And that seed is a little bit different to an affirmation. It's important how that sankalpa is formed. And I very often work with people and students to help them to discover the deepest and most profound sankalpa for them. And it's not something that changes daily. It's something we work with over very often a long period of time before that sankalpa is realized.
Yeah.
It's nourishing.
Sorry, do you use yoga nidra a lot for your clients?
Yes, I do. I teach. I'd never give a class without yoga nidra.
Me too.
So that's always part of my teaching. With individual clients, sometimes I'll do a specific recording for them. Sometimes I'll give them a pre-recorded yoga nidra that I've done. I also work a lot with breath and breathing. So I'll often do specific recordings for my clients, specific to their needs on whatever level of breath work that they're ready for. And, you know, I've had some clients where they really need to work for months just to learn how to do basic yogic full breathing, because they're, you know, I have a client at the moment who's, you know, in the latter part of her life, and she's never breathed correctly, ever. So this is a huge new learning. The fact that she, you know, she has a diaphragm, and that diaphragm can move.
The ribs can move. Yeah, everything can move. Yeah, and it's allowed to.
And it's not just about the upper chest. And of course, this woman has a heart condition as well, and a lung condition, and needs every little bit of oxygen she can get into her cells. So, you know, we're working there with with breathing, but also when we're learning something new, it's very important to add relaxation to that. So we're working with relaxation with breathing techniques, and very, very simply, but with profound effect.
Mm. And you were talking about the Sankalpa, and how is it different from an affirmation? Could you explain that to listeners? Is there more of a quality thing? Is it?
Yeah, it's definitely quality. And I sort of think when the mind becomes deeply relaxed, your Sankalpa is like a seed being planted in fertile ground, so that seed can then grow to fruition. And that seed needs to be watered. So regular practice of yoga nidra and watering your Sankalpa by using it while in that deep and profound yoga nidra state, where the body feels as if it's sleeping, but the consciousness is awake. When we're in our conscious day-to-day state, and we may just be repeating affirmations throughout the day, and you know, some people repeat 10, 20, 30 affirmations a day. That can be very confusing to the mind. When you think that the conscious mind, you know, the mind and the mind train, as I call it, that's going round and round the tracks, can have anywhere between 40,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and that 80% of those thoughts are repetitive.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing, literally.
Well, I think that's one thing. When I did my Vipassana, it was the only thing I could see was like, my brain is just going around in circles. It's like a spoiled brat demanding to be listened to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
That's a good way of putting it, Shira. And it's like a mind, I call it the mind train. And, you know, each of the thoughts are like carriages, and we jump from carriage to carriage to carriage to carriage.
Yeah.
And 80% of those thoughts, and this has been proven, are repetitive. So it's interesting to notice which of our thoughts are repetitive and which carriages we keep jumping on, because that's what we'll be manifesting in our life. That's what we'll be reinforcing in our life. So with the Sankalpa, we go into a much more deep and profound state of relaxation. We repeat one Sankalpa 3 times. It's very important. One, not I want this, I want that. It's very important also how we formulate that Sankalpa. So it has to be in positive language, as simple as possible. The brain needs simplicity, it needs positivity, and it needs repetition. Yeah. So this is how we work.
Would you say this is like a solid ground, a mental solid ground for the mind? The repetition, the simplicity and clarity.
Yes. Well, that is, you know, you're watering one seed there. Otherwise, you could be scattering your seeds all over the place, and they won't be deeply planted. So they'll just
be fed. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to share with our listeners that Soraya gave me a beautiful mantra before I left Australia. A few years back, we did the therapy training together, and she offered me a beautiful mantra, and it really helped because I repeated that daily, again and again and again, and really with a conscious awareness and allowing even each word in the mantra or the affirmation. I felt that word before I moved on to the next word, really trying to embody it energetically. And it was so empowering. And it's really, at one point you can leave that mantra behind. You go, okay, I've grown into that, and now I need a new one. And that's really lovely when you can feel that. So thank you, Soraya. It was a very wonderful mantra. It was just what I needed.
I can't remember what it was, but it must have been right in the moment. And, you know, we don't, and that's the great thing also about being a yoga therapist. You're really focused on who you're with in that moment and what is applicable in that moment and what is right there. And the next time you see that client, that may have shifted. That may be completely different. So it's really important for us to always see our client in the light that they are in that moment, allowing them
to be
to transform, to change, to jump out of any box they've been put in.
Yeah, but also to accept. I think that's the very vital part of a therapist, whatever kind of therapist, is being able to hold that space for the person as they are in that moment and not expecting them to transcend or move beyond, but just being with what is, as is.
Absolutely. And, you know, sometimes we can take a step forward. It's seemingly a step forward and one backwards. But of course, this is only using words and mental construct to say that. And all of that involves judgment. And of course, when we're working with someone, there's absolutely no judgment. There's actually profound reverence for our clients and their bravery and courage to be loving themselves better.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's so wonderful. I love doing this work. It's so fulfilling and rewarding and connecting so deeply and intimately with people.
It is. And of course, you know, I am you and you are me. We learn from each other and we learn from our clients as well as our clients learning from us. This is always a two-way street. Always, I love that mindfulness aspect of staying with beginner's mind. So I can always learn something. This is the first, you know, keeping that beginner's mind so that we are also open to greater understanding.
Yeah. Thank you. Soraya, would you like to leave us with a practice?
Yes, I can do that. And your listeners, what is it that do you have a particular focus?
No, for me, this whole podcast is for listeners to understand what yoga therapy is. And because every yoga therapist works differently, or some people have niched down. So for me, I work mainly with emotions and mental states. So I work a lot with the energy body and breathing and just becoming aware of. So everyone has a different thing to work with. My first guest was Yael, and her work was with special needs. So that's also a very different way to work. But eventually it all boils down to the same. But how do we get people there? Yeah.
Okay, I think yoga therapy is becoming more and more accepted these days and understood. You know, originally it may have been quite misunderstood because it was associated as being Indian and perhaps religious because it did stem from a more Hindu community. But the beautiful thing that I love about yoga is it's for everybody. And it's not fixed on any religion. It honors and respects all peoples as one. And that's just such a beautiful thing. You know, that word yoga, to yoke, to come together, you know, to unite every aspect of ourselves in balance. So I can do a practice now. So if your guests would like to make themselves comfortable, we might just do a really simple mindful meditation with a little bit of breath awareness. So anybody at any level of experience can do this practice. And as you're doing this practice, the most important thing to do is to be relaxed. So you can lie down if you like on your couch or your bed, or you can sit in a comfortable chair, or if you're more flexible, you can sit cross-legged or on a bolster. But please don't do this if you're driving the car and listening. Because you may just get too relaxed and miss the traffic lights. So making yourself comfortable now. And set aside anything that you have been doing. Set aside the story of your day and bring all your attention and awareness into this moment. And noticing, first of all, the body. Noticing how the body is sitting, whether you're sitting or lying, whether your back is supported, or perhaps your feet are on the floor, or perhaps you're sitting cross-legged or lying on your bed. So notice the body and notice the body being supported by the chair, the floor, the bolster, the cushion, or the bed. And feel those points of contact between the body and the support. Make any adjustments. And if you feel comfortable to, I invite you to close your eyes. But if that's difficult for you, simply leave your eyes open, gently staring without focusing on anything in particular. Relax your gaze. Begin to notice any sensations in the body. Perhaps the body is feeling tired. Perhaps there's some pain or discomfort. Or the body may be feeling warm and comfortable. There is no right or wrong. There is only what is and your experience in this moment. And now shift your attention to the breath and just notice your natural breath. Noticing the incoming and then the outgoing breath. Observe the movement, albeit subtle, in the body with the breath. And focus now to the diaphragm, a muscle lying under the lungs, and the abdomen. And notice that as you inhale, the belly expands gently. If only slightly, that's okay. As the diaphragm moves down. This is happening naturally. Your body is breathing for you, and there is no effort on your part. Now shift your awareness to the rib cage wrapping around the body. There's ribs at the front, side and back of the body. And that rib cage wraps beautifully around the lungs. It's a protective casing, but it's flexible. And you might just notice some subtle expansion and relaxation in that rib cage as your magnificent body breathes for you. And now notice the breath in the upper chest. This may be an even more subtle experience. Now just notice. And now we're going to deepen our breath. As you breathe in, lengthen your inhalation. Breathing long and slow. Pause and then breathe out long and slow. Pause before you inhale again. And that pause may be 1 or 2 seconds. Just a gentle, comfortable pause. Feel the lungs filling from the bottom to the top. Let the length of the breath be comfortable. And a sense of relaxation as the breath flows out. Pause and then inhale again. Continue to be aware of that long, slow inhalation. Pause and a long, slow exhalation. Pause. And if the mind train kicks in and you find yourself distracted by thought, notice this and gently redirect your attention back to the breath. Initially, we may need to redirect our attention many times. Eventually, the mind will relax and will stay longer with this breath. You may feel the breath in the body as the lungs expand. You may notice that movement in the diaphragm, in the rib cage, and in the upper chest. And noticing the lungs deflating with the out-breath and the body relaxing back down. Now allow your breath to be natural once again. No need to lengthen the inhale or the exhale. Just allow the body to breathe naturally. And observe bringing greater and greater awareness into the body breathing. And noticing the more subtle movements in the body with the natural breath. And now coming back to an awareness of the solid body, seated or lying on the couch, the bolster or the bed. Feeling your solid body supported from beneath. Noticing now any sensations in the body, sensations of comfort or discomfort. Perhaps there is a deeper experience of peace or relaxation. Or perhaps not. Just allowing your experience to be as it is, without judging it in any way. Come back to an awareness now of your circumstances, this room, the sounds you can hear around you. Awareness of this time and in this place, in this moment. Take a deep breath in and out. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be peace for the body, mind, and spirit. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. That was beautiful. I feel very peaceful and centered and present. Lovely.
Yeah, our practices are so wide-ranging, and it's the simplest of practices that can help to create such deeper presence and awareness of awareness.
Yeah. Sometimes we just have to get through all those layers. And yeah.
And I think the thing to remember is that, you know, we're right here, right now, and we actually don't have to, you know, for many years I was a seeker. Well, I've stopped seeking because this is it.
Yeah.
This is life. This is life.
Yeah. And it's very amazing. It's mind-blowing in and of itself as it is. Yeah. But for me, it's really been my daughter becoming a mother that has shown me that, really appreciating this. I remember I went to my meditation mentor in Australia when I just had my child. I think she was 3 months old, and I said to her, but what is my dharma? I want to know what my calling is. And she said, you're an embodied spirit. This is it. Whatever's right in front of you, this is your calling.
Absolutely. And if we have children, then our first duty is to be a mother or to be a parent.
Yeah.
And that is as spiritual an experience as anything else.
Yeah, if not more, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I know from being a parent myself and then losing a child and going through that, being present through grief and loss, which is what I wrote my book about, is profound. Everything that is happening in our lives right now, if we can be 100% present for it, then it can be a complete experience. And in that completion of that experience, we are whole.
Yeah, and the soul of the other person too.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Shira. It's just
thank you for being
light.
on. And is there anything else you'd love to share, or where can people find you? What is the best place for them to find out more about you?
Well, you can find my website at www.sorayasaraswati.com. I am based in Australia. However, my husband is a composer musician, Terry Oldfield, and Terry Oldfield and Soraya is our band. And we normally are traveling around Europe at this time of the years, offering meditation, mindfulness, satsangs, yoga workshops, but also our music. Terry is an amazing flautist, and a lot of people use his and our music in their yoga classes, in their yoga studios. In fact, one of the CDs is called Yoga Harmony, which is beautiful. I also run a global online satsang, which I started last year, actually. Good. When this whole pandemic came out. Right. I thought, how can we offer something that's free and that can create some sort of sangha or community of a yoga type community of like-minded people. So I run that every Sunday night. It's free. You just have to email me and I will send you a link, and you can join that. And that's become a really beautiful, smallish but beautiful community of people from all parts of the UK and Europe as well.
Wow, I want to join. Why didn't you send me a link?
We did it on a Sunday night, which of course is your Sunday morning. So that works well.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So I'll send you.
Please, yes.
I just need. Yeah, I'll.
Soraya's being very humble here. She's an amazing singer. She has a beautiful, soft, angelic voice. It's
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually did, in case other people are interested, I actually did a series of podcasts myself called The Healing Mirror, which are on non-duality, Advaita, and the direct path, which is the path that I discuss.
Okay, great.
So
I'll be
that
checking it out too.
And this is wonderful that you're doing these podcasts, Shira. Absolutely fabulous, because yoga therapy, I think, will be very well received and more in the future, because it's so holistic, because it addresses the whole person. And even with my naturopathy, my foundation is the yoga therapy, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of potential there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Soraya. Have a wonderful day, weekend. Thanks so much for doing this with me. So good to see you again. Bye.
You're so welcome.